Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brett Allen from the Open Mic Podcast. And to my left, to my right, I have an amazing musician. I can't even talk. SCHARA. I'm saying that right, correct?
Yeah, you did. I'm impressed. Good job.
Yeah, I know. Well, do people mispronounce it all the time? I'm
Oh,
sure.
yes, all the time. They call me SCHARA or SCHARA. And I'm like, but who would name their kid that?
I know that would be weird for somebody to, yeah. I mean, I know celebrities name their kids weird names like Apple and Fiona.
I was just going to say Apple. That's funny.
I think Gwyneth Paltrow, they name their kid Apple or something like that.
Yeah, they did.
Well, it's funny. Yeah. I mean, what about normal names? I mean, come on. But
I know,
Shara is a
right?
great name. So let's talk about that. I mean, you grew up in a very interesting family and you've kind of got a really cool story. So let's just start there with your name and why your parents named you that and kind of your background and what sort of led you into music.
Yeah, my name is Hebrew. I'm not Hebrew, but my name is Hebrew, and it actually means to sing God's song, which is pretty cool. And I'm a singer, and they didn't know, obviously, that I was going to be a singer. And it was just really crazy that turned out that way.
Yeah, that's a beautiful name. So why did they give you a Hebrew name? Because growing up, you're from Canada and you were born into your mother was East Indian and Portuguese and your father was Scottish and they gave you a Hebrew name. So that's very cool.
Yeah, well, there's actually a singer named Shahrazad, which is even more confusing. But apparently, like, no one at the hospital could say Shahrazad. So then they came up with Shara, and then they later found out that that's Hebrew. I don't even know what Shahrazad is. I have no idea. But that would have been cool too. I mean, I feel like I could rock that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're cool, so you could rock anything. Well, my son's name is Jared, and that's actually Hebrew as well.
Oh, nice.
And we named it because it means descendant or ruler of one. So that was his mother chose that on purpose. So, he would be able to carry on the legacy of being a Montgomery and that sort of thing. So names are important, right? I mean, come on,
Yes.
but it also has worked out quite well for you otherwise because it's a cool name to have as a pop musician, right?
Well, that's what I think because, like all those like one namers, Madonna, Rihanna, Beyonce, right? So I was like, hey, this is perfect. But like no one can find me on social media or on Spotify because they're like, what the hell is Shara? How do I spell it? So I think I'm going to have to like be a lot more famous for this to work out. But, one day people will be like, oh, Shara, I know who that is.
Well, I mean, I didn't have a hard time finding you. Now, you have a brand new single, a new song that just recently came out called Real Love,
Yes.
and it has hit the top charts, the 100 charts. So I think you are getting recognition, right? So how has that experience been for you?
Well, it's awesome and it's amazing. I just can't believe like I've finally charted. I've been working on this a very long time. But obviously like, COVID put a bit of a damper, I mean, obviously on the whole world and the single, but we're still happy that we charted and we did really well on YouTube and just looking to do the next single and keep it going during this apocalyptic world we're in.
I know. Well, especially right now, I think we just need as much content as we can get our hands on. Now, who are some of your musical influences that kind of help you write, who inspire you, and those sorts of things?
My all-time favorite singer is Taylor Swift. I said this on my last podcast. I'm obsessed with Taylor Swift. I think she's like the best songwriter of my generation. And I feel like she's always trying to like every album, she's trying to get better and better. And that's like my goal. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, the interesting thing about her too is when this whole drama happened with her former producer or something like that, I think she decided so she could keep the rights to all her music. It was going to re-record everything, right? And she's in the process of doing that. I think that's dedication. Have you seen that documentary on Netflix about her? Did you watch that?
Oh yeah, like 10 times. Yeah, no, for sure. That's amazing. I think she's like one of the only artists who or like mainstream artists who own all of their music now. And like, look how hard she fought for it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the fact that she recorded an album during COVID.
Yeah,
Good
that's
Lord.
cool.
I mean, who the heck does that? I mean,
Yeah.
that talk about spending your time well. A lot of us are sitting around. I'm binge watching movies and obviously taping content. We're a little bit late because we were joking. I couldn't find the remote to my television. And so but let's talk about a little bit more. Now, would you classify yourself as an independent artist? Is that kind of where you fall, or what is the spectrum that
Yes.
you fall in?
I'm an independent pop artist. Yes, I have an independent label who's supporting me, and I love them very much. And we're really pushing. But yes, I'm an indie artist for sure.
So, what are some of the challenges that you have faced so far? I've been doing music for a very long time, so it's
How
not
much
like
time do you have, Brett?
we got plenty of time. I'm going nowhere, so I'll just open a drink and we'll sit here and talk.
Right, no. There's been a lot of problems trying to get my career up and running for sure. A lot of
Well,
struggles.
what are some of the challenges that you face, if you don't mind sharing that? Because I think our
Oh, yeah.
listeners would really appreciate that.
Oh, for sure. Well, the music industry, I'm sure, as everyone knows, even if you're not in the industry, it's like pretty brutal. Like, it's like one of the hardest industries to get into and to succeed in. And what, like, a lot of the, gate holders, they're like, they call no, I've been getting called old since I was literally 12. Like, they'll be like, oh, you should have started younger, like at 12 years old, or like, oh, lose weight, or oh, change your music, or like they'll just put you down. And they do it like to all artists. I remember on the Grammys last year, Lady Gaga was like, oh, like they told me like my sound wouldn't work and my look wouldn't work. And here I am. It's like a very
Weird.
cutthroat industry.
Yeah, yeah. I find it to be, I think just entertainment in general is tough. Like there's such a small percentage of people who actually make it or even get as far as you've gotten when it comes to getting your music out there. So I think, from my perspective, you've already experienced like a certain level of success and you've charted. So how did that happen? Like what caused you to get on the charts? Like how long of a process is that and how does that actually even happen?
Well, I've been trying to get on the charts my whole life, but really, like, once you get a record label, they're the ones pushing it to get it on the charts, calling up all the radio stations, trying to get those slots, right? So that's really how it happened. Is like I owe that all to my label. They just pushed really hard to get it on there.
And oftentimes, what people might not know is when you're on a major label, they're also putting a lot of money into it, right? Like they're paying people to go out and hustle, not necessarily, paying radio stations to play your music. I don't know. Sometimes they might still do that. I know that was a thing for a long time back in the 80s and 90s. They were paying radio stations to and to play their music, and the number of spins that your song was getting was kind of what was putting you up there, right? To be recognizable. But you've been hustling it all on your own and it finally happened. So how does that feel?
Yeah, no, it feels amazing. I think it's really important to have like a really strong team behind you that just keeps pushing no matter like what obstacles get thrown at you. But yeah, it feels amazing. But I was saying that I like have really big goals, like really big, like I'm not stopping until like the whole world knows my name, even if I'm like 72 when that happens. But like the point being is like I have a lot of big goals. And so it's hard to like, take the little steps into like, your psyche. But I think that obviously I'm happy I did it. And it was like super surreal that it finally happened, that I finally charted. But I'm the type of person that's like, okay, next step.
So what are your next steps? Like what is the long game for you in your career? Like what would you like to see happen in the next 6 months to the next year?
Well, I mean, if you asked me that a couple years ago or even a year ago, I could answer. But because of COVID, I have no idea. Like I was supposed to be in the States because I'm in Canada, right? I was supposed to be in the States doing shows and, concerts and whatnot. But like the music industry, like we don't know when it's going to come back because of COVID. So I don't know, but I'm going to be releasing a new song soon and, working the online circuit.
Do you have a studio in your house or the ability to record then, I'm assuming?
No, I actually don't. I usually go into the studio. So the last song, Real Love, that charted, I recorded that in LA. So I flew down there. And then prior to that, I would record in Vancouver in Canada.
Okay. So you're really having to work this then. This is not like
Yeah.
an easy task. And I think people need to understand that, those who are watching and listening, because it's hard work. And we have this perception, I think, of musicians and even celebrities and actors, like they just have this ability to like pick and choose and kind of just do whatever they want and turn things down when they want. But that's not always necessarily the case. Like it's a constant grind for you. You do this full time, right?
I do it full time, but I teach music to pay the bills, because you don't
Okay.
make money in music until, you're like, I made it to 97 on the chart. We need to make it to like top 30. So I'm a music teacher full time, but I'm also doing my career full time. So I'm super busy.
Oh, that's great. So you teach music then as well. How
Yeah.
fun is that for you?
Oh yeah, I love it. I teach a lot of kids, and they're always like, "Oh, you get to go to LA and you get to do this." It's really cute. Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, and then you're like, I don't want to ruin your dreams for you, but this is a
Oh no, I tell them, I'm like, this is a long, hard road. But the thing is like you have to like have the passion, right? Like if it's something you can't like live without, like you need to do it.
what gets you up in the morning and drives you and motivates you to keep going?
Well, I've had this dream since I was literally 4. Like, so young, I just was like, no, I'm gonna be a famous singer. And a lot of people don't like the word famous. Like, even in my family, they're like, oh, why do you have to say the word famous? But it's like, you have to understand, when you're a musician, like that's how you make it. Like you need the fans to like buy your music and come to your shows and all that, right? So like I've always wanted to do this since I was 4. And that's just my dream, and that keeps me going every day. Like I'm not going to stop until it happens.
What do mom and dad think of all of this? Do they think that you're crazy and that you need to go and get a real job, so to speak?
I love that. Okay, no, they don't, because they know how hard I work, and like they they think my music's really good, and they see that I have what it takes to make it. But like other people think I'm crazy for sure.
Yeah,
Like,
and I can imagine you probably have had people tell you, you said this earlier, people were saying negative things about Lady Gaga, and I know they've said negative things about other people too. I mean, Taylor Swift is the perfect example. Her whole fiasco with a Kanye and that whole deal, and that almost like caused career suicide for her.
oh
And
yeah,
it wasn't even her fault. And
no.
not necessarily, I mean, at least from what we saw, but in that Taylor Swift documentary, she talks about that and really how that could have just caused her to go into a spin out and stop altogether, right? Like that could have been the end. She could have given up. And I think she even got more famous as a result of those experiences. So when it comes to you and your career outside of like the negativity that might come from other people, how do you deal with the negativity, and how do you just kind of compartmentalize it and then regurgitate that and get it to motivate you like more and more?
Well, I mean, obviously, like getting told you're like too fat or too old or too young or too this or too that, like obviously that gets to you, but you have to like remember, you have to go back to that dream you had when you were a kid and why you do this. You have to be like, no, like these people don't know. Like, and it's true, they don't know. They just tell this to everyone. If you talk to any artist, they'll be like, oh, I've been told this, I've been told this, I've been told this. You have to like go back to your own true passion and like let that drive you, and let your own vision, like don't let other people dictate to you who you are.
Yeah, I think the outside chatter oftentimes can be a distraction, right? The white noise. They say don't believe your own press. And I think that's true in the sense that, we even doing podcasting, Larry, who introduced us, who has a great podcast, he talks about this whole concept of comparanoia, where we often find ourselves comparing each other to ourselves and to other people who are maybe like at a different level than us. And so because of that, we start to freak out and go, I can't do this. This is not something that I should even be doing. Have you had any moments like that where you've just wanted to quit and be like, I'm done?
Oh yeah, like every day. But I'll never quit. I will never quit. I will die trying. I will die trying. But yeah, you go through that every day. It's hard because you're always, and especially like social media, like you're always looking at people who are happier, more successful, have more money, prettier, skinnier, blah blah blah. Like it's like really messes with your emotions. And I think sometimes like taking a social media break will get me back on track to be like, no, I don't need to compare. I don't need to compare to other people. And no one should. No one should compare. Comparing is the thief of happiness.
Yeah, I like that. That could be a good title for this episode. I think, when you start looking at other people and you're just like, man, I want what she has or I want what he has, then it's a thief that steals your joy, right? And then you're like, well, why should I even keep doing this if I can't? But I'm a firm believer that hard work pays off in the long run, regardless of what that might look like. For you, I think your success will be defined by whatever it is that you want to define it by, right? I mean, I consider you to be successful just to even be on this kind of platform where you've charted and people are listening to your music, and it's just like a snowball effect, right? You keep going and
Totally.
going and going, and you have highs and you have lows, and you make it work. Looking back on your career, do you have anything that you would do differently since you started to now?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Things I would do. Yeah, I do. I would not listen to what people think that I should be. I would go back if I could and just like tell myself, don't listen and just follow your heart, follow your own gut. I think that's my biggest thing. But I've learned it now and I'm still learning it. It's still hard, obviously, but I'm a lot better at it, at like listening to myself and listening to my heart and listening to like what I want to do.
Are you a perfectionist when it comes to you as an individual and a human being?
Oh yeah, for sure. OCD in the house.
Yeah. Is that a challenge for you when you are so critical of yourself? Like, I think we all have this impression of ourselves that is true. And then I think we have this idea that people have this impression of us that's not true, right? And sometimes, I'm the same way. I get so overcritical of myself that it just paralyzes me to the point where I quit podcasting for a year because
oh my God.
I know it's crazy. Well, this time last year is when I kind of stopped because I was experiencing just a little bit of success, not to the level that I'm at now. And obviously I still have a long way to go, but it just got to be so stressful that I couldn't handle it. And I had like this existential breakdown and I had to stop because it was so stressful deciding, what is this brand going to look like? Who am I going to interview? And you get into your own head sometimes. I don't know if that happens to you. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I need to rebrand myself or I need to do this. Does that make sense what I'm describing?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like, I mean, I'm not just going to say like only creative people, but just because like we're creative in the arts, I feel like a lot of artists have that. Like that's one of the things of being an artist is like that self-criticism, I think.
Right. And you've gotten to a level where you've gotten some recognition. And I think that the sky's the limit for you.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this a little bit, just kind of negativity and social media. But what is the impression that you think other people have of you in your outside circle of influence? Like, who do they see SCHARA in your mind? How do you think people view you?
Well, I hope they view me as kind of like the underdog, or at least that's going to be my goal, because a lot of people, I'm not going to say have paid their way, but they've been given opportunities that a lot of struggling artists haven't. And I like, as I get more out there, I want to like show people that they can have their dreams, whether you have connections or not.
Yeah, I think that's true. And that brings me to my next question. I like to ask all the talent, celebrities, artists, whoever, they're all equal in my eyes. But what are your thoughts on shows like America's Got Talent or American Idol? A lot of people I've had referred to them as the karaoke Ferris wheel or the karaoke merry-go-round, where they just go from one show. One time they're on The Voice, then they're on American Idol, then they're on America's Got Talent. What is your perception of artists? I'm not asking you to pigeonhole you or leading the witness, but I'm just curious, like, for those who might not necessarily work as hard, but then they get this instant success, they're plucked out of obscurity, and now they're just famous. Do you think they miss out on the experience of grinding like you've had to grind, or how do you feel about those types of shows?
I think a lot of those people, not all of them, but a lot of them, like Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, like they were trying for years before they got on that show. So I think sometimes like it does like help and it's amazing. And I mean, look at them, right? But then other times I think if you haven't, you know, grinded or like put in that work or seen what the industry's like, obviously those people fade away. Like I can only name maybe 5 winners, or I mean, contestants, you know, like I think that passion has to be there, whether it's the show or not, you know?
Right. I mean, there have been winners and you don't hear anything about them, right? You're like, who is that again? You know, and they've won. So it's not always a guarantee.
Yeah.
And I think one of the like threads that a common thread that I see when I talk to people is that it all comes down to having a career that's sustainable, right? Something that's going to sustain you for the rest of your life and set you up, not necessarily financially, but obviously money is a necessary evil. So that's obviously, but that's not why you're chasing music, right? It's not about the money. It can't be.
No, God, I would have quit long ago if it was about the money. But no, it's about, like I said, it's that passion. Like I just have to do this. It's my calling. Like I'm meant to do music. It's like music makes my like world go around, you know? But I mean, obviously money at some point would be amazing because like I'm pretty broke. But
I know.
I mean, you know,
aren't we all?
Yeah, I know. But I think that like you got to go at life, in my opinion, from like your passions. I mean, I know a lot of people don't, but I feel like even if you're poor or rich, following your passions will always lead you to greater happiness.
How do you define success? How does SCHARA define success? We've talked about it a little bit, kind of in pieces, but like, what is your vision? What is your definition of success?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I don't know my definition of success. I'm always just like grinding. I'm always like looking for the next thing. I don't know my definition of success. What's your definition of success?
Well, that's a good. Oh, so now we're turning the tables. Well, I say that because like success can mean different things for different people, right? Like I don't think, and I think it's seen through the lens, not necessarily of money, but kind of being at a place where you're enjoying what you're doing, right? I think that's how I define success. I love being able to talk to people. I get to talk to amazing musicians. I get to talk to all kinds of celebrities. I just talked to a couple today. To me, that is success. Like I've reached that next goal for podcasting where I'm able to knock down some really good talent. And I'm happy about that. And to have conversations with these people is amazing. And to get to talk to people like you and to take advantage of technology and stream this for a lot of people to watch and listen to. That's how I define success. Right now, there's mailbox money and then there's like money.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen not really a lot of either one. So, you know, I do other things like to kind of subsidize my business of a podcaster, right? And I just started a business as well. So my whole point is that that's how I define success, right? It's like, are you happy with where you're at? And of course you're always looking for the next thing, but the other part of that too, I think, SCHARA, is just being able to relish in and be in the moment that you're in right now. I think if you can enjoy where you're at, then you've obtained success. Does that answer make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can totally relate to that. Like, I think being present in life is like a big struggle for a lot of people, and me included. Like, the more I'm present, the happier I am, right? Remember, there's that, like, I can't remember the quote, but it's like, if you're living in the past or living in the future, you're not living your best life. You got to live in the present.
Yeah. So that there's no right or wrong answer to that. It's just more of like being present. That's a great definition of success, right?
Yeah.
And just being able to really just be happy with where you're at, but also at the same time have the attitude and the perspective of just like, let's keep going and moving forward and not giving up, right? Because anybody that does any kind of creative thing, I think, and I just say that because that's what makes sense to me, it could be very easy to give up, especially if you've been at it for 10 or 12 years or however long. and you're just waiting for that moment. But the fact that you're able to keep going, I think, is a big deal. And I think that's something that we can take away from. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I think in the arts, I mean, in anything really, but definitely, I mean, I can only speak from the arts because I'm in the arts. So, but like in the arts, like you can't give up. Like you can never give up. And like if you are one of those people who like are like, you know, want to give up, then like the arts would be a tough go, because like my mom's a writer, and she writes movies and TV shows, and it's the same deal with even writers. Like you just can't give up. You have to just keep going.
That's even a more intense field than music. My God. I mean,
Yeah, totally.
I've heard stories of people who have written a 5-season arc and have a show Bible and have character. I mean, the whole thing, like this could be something. And then they go in and go, that's not enough. I need more. And you
Or
have to just,
canceled after one season.
yes. Has that happened to your mom?
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Oh, wow.
It happens. Like, I mean, I'm a big Netflix fan, but like, look at Netflix. Like there's so many amazing shows and it gets canceled after one season, right?
Yeah, it's kind of irritating, especially when you get into something and then you're like, why did they end this? Or if it's a show that's been on for a very long time, and then all of a sudden they just decide to pull the plug. And
Yeah.
it's funny, I joke with Netflix because like they used to be like I don't know how to say this because we're broadcasting live and I don't know who's watching, but the something of entertainment where they said yes to everybody and you could just get a show on there and it was no big deal. And now all of a sudden they're like canceling things like left and right because they have the power now that they didn't have before. But is that, you know what I'm saying? I digress,
Yeah.
but
So,
it's
no,
funny.
totally.
It's hilarious. You know, I think some of the problems that we face as individuals when we're experiencing success are luxury problems, and we don't really know like what it means. Not you, but just I've been this case where I'm like, you know, my house is a little bit hot, or my Uber was late, or my food was cold from Postmates. And it's like, well, at least your credit card works to get Postmates. Well, at least you have an air conditioner in your house.
Yeah,
You know, at least you have a roof over your head. Well, I have to say that I think you're awesome and I love your music. And I'm thankful that Larry, shout out to Larry,
Hi, Larry.
who connected us. I'm sure he's watching. And, you know, I think the future is bright for you when it comes to this. Yeah, yeah. And any way that we can help, you know, we're absolutely here. And you have cool tattoos. I think that's awesome. So
Thanks.
I just have two. I have two on my wrist, and then I have two on my arms.
Oh, cool. Nice. I have a lot.
Yeah, that was a big deal for me to get tattoos for the first time. I was a little bit nervous, but after I got the first one, I was like, well, this is nothing. And then I was about to get another one, and then COVID hit and everything got shut down.
Oh, COVID. Yep.
How has it been treating you just overall mentally? Like, have you been okay? You've been able to handle things. You're obviously able to teach music online and things like that.
Yeah, no, I've been good. I've been eating a lot. No. But other than that, like, yeah, I've been good. Like Netflix is my boyfriend, as I say. So just like watching Netflix and eating a lot of food during the whole COVID thing. And obviously like, you know, praying for the world and hoping everyone's okay for sure.
Yeah. Do you guys have, I know this is going to sound like a very dumb question, but do you have services like food delivery services to your house, like DoorDash?
Yeah, that is not a dumb question because we just got Skip the Dishes like recently.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And at least where I live in Vancouver. And yeah, during COVID, me and my roommate, we like got so much Skip the Dishes, which is like Uber Eats or whatever. And yeah, we were like, oh, this is dangerous.
I know. I think I've probably I could own stock in the company. And you're in Vancouver too, so that's kind of like the Hollywood of Canada, right? There's a lot of creativeness going on there, and I mean, you have TV shows that film there all the time. So,
oh yeah, Ryan Phillippe's here right now, and I have a huge crush on him. And I'm like, oh, I hope I'll run into him. But no, it's COVID, so that won't happen.
Oh, is he there filming right now? Is he doing something?
Yeah, apparently it says his Instagram story, you know, the Instagram stories. Yeah, he's was in quarantine or something for 14 days. And my mom was actually in quarantine for 14 days and she came from across the country and just to see me and my grandma. And yeah, she was in quarantine for 14 days, just waiting to come out.
That's funny. Well, as we wrap up, do you have any dream collaborations or people that you would like to work with, just to kind of put that out there into the universe?
Oh my God, there's so many. I mean, obviously Taylor Swift, but that's dreaming really, really big. But I'm going to keep holding on to that. I'm going to hold on to that. Yeah. But also, I have a new song coming out called Apocalypse, and I hope you will listen to it, Brett.
Absolutely. And you also have your other song, too, that we did mention that.
Yeah, Real Love. Definitely.
Real Love. Yeah. And that's streaming everywhere. And yeah, I mean, I think the big message is that we need to support our artists regardless of capacity or where you're at, because music matters. And I think that's something that I'm trying to teach my son, to really have an appreciation for music. And you know, because I think it's healing, and I feel like we're just in a place right now where we need that. I mean, we're just so overly consumed with technology and content and all of these other things that I think music is something that we miss, and we need more of it. And you need to listen to SCHARA's music, not SCHARA. So everybody who Googles her, it's SCHARA.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram at I am SCHARA.
Yes. So speaking of, if people want to connect with you that watch this replay later, how can they do that?
Oh, how can they do that? I will be posting this on all my socials at I am SCHARA.
Yes, I am SCHARA, and she's in lockdown and quarantine, and we're watching Netflix, ordering Skip the Dishes, just like everybody else in the world. And fingers crossed, this will all end soon, and you can get back to doing what you love more effectively.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I totally agree what you were saying about how healing music is. Imagine the world without music or entertainment is so like healing for the world, really.
It really is. Well, SCHARA, thanks for stopping by and hanging out on the broadcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Nice meeting you.